Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We'll get started in a few seconds. All right. Welcome to our training. This is going to be a little bit personal because it's going to be about myself, in particular about how I got a full ride scholarship to UC Berkeley for undergrad and graduate school. So I'm going to teach you all the techniques about what I did in order to be able to find the scholarships and to write it. And also, I'll give you a bit of a profile of who I was as a student way back when I was in high school. So just as a grain of salt, though, a lot of other things have changed since I was in high school. So it's been more than a decade. So that being said, you'll still be able to gain some valuable lessons from here, and not much has changed since then in terms of what they're looking for. So first off, we're going to be going into my high school record. You'll learn a bit more about my academics, my activities, and my application and what I wrote about. I'll teach you all about how to find the scholarships, how to write it, and also lastly is acing the interview if you get invited to the final round of scholarship apps. Quick housekeeping, share your high school graduation year in the chat. I'm kind of curious about who's here right now. I would love to be able to understand who's in the room. And also, are y'all seniors, juniors? Are y'all in the process of writing your applications? Or maybe folks are in middle school. I'm kind of curious. Okay, we got one junior, one sophomore. All right. So folks might be, okay, awesome. So that probably means that a lot of folks here will actually start applying for scholarships now. The time to apply to scholarships are usually junior to senior year. And so it is a very important time to kind of build the habits to start thinking about it. Also, if at any point in time you have any questions, please drop it in the Q&A box. Replays and notes will be available after 48 hours. And quick background of me, if you haven't worked with myself yet, I was a former UC Berkeley admissions outreach coordinator and also instructor. I used to teach courses about how to get into graduate school. And also I worked with Coach Tony, our founder, within the admissions office. And that's how we actually met. The second fun fact, I mean, that's the title of this particular presentation, that I got a full ride to Berkeley for undergrad and graduate school. And I'll teach you all how I did that. And lastly, in terms of my background, in terms of professional experiences, worked in K through 12 education policy, education tech, and also as admissions advisor right now. So that being said, let's dive into it. So first off, pop quiz. All right, in the chat. What is the most important thing here? Is it the academics, the activities, or the application? Let me know. Put it, what have we taught you all? If you're a part of our coaching families, I hope that y'all remember this. Application, application. Okay. All right. I got all. All right. Okay. So the correct answer is application. Okay. Remember that in terms of the academics, typically when it comes to applying to a lot of these schools, a lot of people already have strong academics. Okay. That tends to be the common denominator across a lot of students that apply to these competitive universities. Same for activities. You might think that you're special in terms of doing something really interesting and unique. In reality, there's also a lot of students who probably did doing the same thing or thought about very similar personal projects. So the application, though, is really what differentiates you from everyone else because the application is personal to you. That's why in the UC system, they call it personal insight questions because it's about you. It's about how you frame it. Two people can go to the same activities, can do the same personal project, can have the same academics, but it's the application that makes them both different. It's about how they talk about what did they actually learn. So that's why the application is the most important. And also another pop quiz question. What do scholarships look for in a scholar? Any thoughts? What do you think they look for? No ideas? Any ideas? Okay, someone said success at the end. Any other ideas about what scholarships look for amongst their candidates? So let's say I was a scholarship officer and I was reviewing a whole bunch of applications. How would I determine which student would I accept? Okay, I see passion, consistency. Okay, I'm going to name out a few examples of things, and it's not limited to this. So first off, return on investment. Okay, if I were to invest into this particular student or child, what do I expect to see in the future of what they're going to accomplish, right? Because they're investing into your future because of some type of return, whether that's a return on helping the organization, helping the community, or anything of that sort. Second is the alignment of the mission. What is the mission of this scholarship? What are they trying to achieve? What are they doing? And so the importance of aligning to what is it that they hope to accomplish in the future is should be aligned to your personal statement. Third, academic rigor, because they don't want scholars who are going to flunk out of college, right? Because the thing is, they're investing into you and they're expecting that you're going to take this money and that you will actually finish college and be able to have a degree. So they want to know that you are a consistent student that can handle university courses. Fourth, leadership in the community. They don't want just anybody. They want people who actually stand out in the community, who can lead people, who can guide people. Because by having a scholar that's a leader in the community, that's going to influence other people within the community. So that being said, they're looking for people who are taking initiative. And lastly, socioeconomic need. And I put this in asterisk because it's two ways to interpret it. One is that you do come from a low socioeconomic background, right? Which is actually for myself as well when I was a student. But the second part is if you are actually supporting a community of socioeconomic need. So know that there are merit-based scholarships and there's different types of scholarships that do try to invest in students who want to support certain communities. So that being said, you don't necessarily need to be low income in order to qualify for scholarships. But if you are able to talk about how you would support these type of communities, that's also a way to be able to stand out. Okay. All right. So let's go into my high school record. And this is going way back. I graduated from in 2011. Now folks kind of know my age from here. And this is what it was back then. So first off, let's start with the academics. So first off, with academics, okay? I was a magnet student where I took pre-engineering courses all 4 years. And within my high school, there were actually only 8 available AP courses. So I took all 8 of them except 2 of them, which is environmental science and art history, which I'm sure might be surprising to some parents here because I know your school might have like 20 AP courses, 15 AP courses or something of that sort. For me, I went to a disadvantaged high school, and technically we only had 8 available. And so the way that admissions officers look at applicants is they compare you to the average. If you are part of our coaching family, you probably already know this, but the way that admissions looks at is your profile against the average general population of that school, because you are being compared against your one, your geographical location, and two, your high school. So if you're taking the most AP courses out of everyone, right? And even if it's just 8 or 6 or 7, right? If you're taking more than the average, that is still very much a positive thing because that shouldn't be held against you because you went to a particular high school that didn't have much offerings. So that being said, there's no magical number of AP courses that you need in order to qualify for these difficult schools and also scholarships. Third thing I'll mention is that I did take pre-calculus dual enrollment with the community college. Remember that dual enrollment is one of the most important things to be able to consider because that is already at college level rigor. Also, something about the pre-calculus course too, I took it because I needed to get ahead on math. The reason for that, when I transferred schools in like 8th grade, I actually was held back. So I took integrated math, I forgot what number, whatever it was. And then I transferred to a school and I was supposed to go to geometry, but they ended up putting me in algebra 1. And so that was a difficult situation because I had to catch up. So something to consider is if you are a middle school student, for middle school families, okay? Uh, Ideally, your child should be in geometry around this time at this very moment. If you're in 8th grade, we ideally would want to see you in geometry. If you're just at algebra 1, then you need to get ahead, meaning that you need to take the dual enrollment courses in order to be able to advance your math, okay? So that's a pro tip there in terms of your particular course selection. Let's talk about my grades. I was an AB student. I was not necessarily like the best student. I mean, I have 4.18 GPA weighted and 3.8 unweighted. In reality, right, GPA doesn't really matter that much. It's more so about like what particular courses did you get A's and B's in, right? Because one of the things that we talk about is that if you're applying for particular pathways, they're going to look for specific courses. My pathway was going into actually undeclared because my particular actually no, my particular pathway was the STEM and business pathway because I was going in as a business major. So that's just for context that business was kind of my focus and that's what I wanted to go into. And so again, within the business pathway, really what they care about is the math, right? And also some of the sciences as well. All right. So next with the other academics, okay? And I think this is going to be a little bit surprising. Uh, I'm not sure if people will answer this, but I want folks to take a random guess. Out of the six AP courses that I uh, took in high school, how many AP courses do y'all think I got a 4 or 5 on? Meaning that I got college credit for it. Okay. Again, the question is, I took 6 AP courses, and how many of the AP courses did I get a 4 or 5 in? All right, I see all of them, all of them, all of them, all. Okay, I'm gonna blow everyone's minds right now, okay? I only passed 2 of them. And I only passed the math ones. For me, I was not really that good in English or history. Math was like really the only strong suit that I really was good in. And also back then in the SATs, the scores were out of 2400 at that time. So this doesn't really apply, but I had 1630, which is really low, actually. I would say that is not a good score. But at least my ACTs were fairly reasonable. It was a 32 out of 36, which is still the same kind of metric that is being used today. So that being said, what does this mean? Is that your AP test doesn't necessarily mean that if you get a 1 or 2 in it, it's not the end of the world, okay? I got into Berkeley with 1s and 2s, and so just know that if you are a junior or a senior and you got 1 or 2s, it's okay. And that being said, right, all it means is that you're getting college credit. Yes, AP exams help demonstrate that you have academic rigor. But also know if you have good grades in them, that also still shows academic rigor. So for example, in my AP English courses, US history and US and AP government, I was still able to get A's, I believe. It should be A's, I imagine. And so know that it's ideal, of course, that you have all pass all your AP tests, but it's not necessarily a requirement for you to get perfect scores across all your AP exams. Okay, now let's go into activities. Okay, so for myself as activities, I was an ASB president and also historian at the time, meaning that I ran like student leadership and ran a course on student leadership. I was an anti-tobacco Friday Night Live vice president, ATFNL, which is like promoting awareness about the harms of tobacco and other kinds of drugs. Third is Model United Nations vice president. So that's like kind of a debate club. I'm sure that is very familiar to a lot of people who might already be in MUN. Work experience, I worked actually 4 jobs, 4 different jobs throughout my time. One, I worked at a tuxedo rental shop, doing like kind of sales, and so that was one of my very first jobs. Second was doing assembly on the assembly line. So part of me was just trying to put things together, and I created things that were used to fix iPhone, the first original iPhone back in the day, and also worked in some retail jobs and also worked as a teacher. So I had a lot of part-time jobs at the time. The main reason for that also as well was because my parents didn't come from money. And so for me, I was actually taking part-time jobs to be able to pay for my own kind of gas, pay for my own kind of uh, yeah, bus fares and all the other and food as well. So in many ways, right, the part-time jobs were kind of a requirement for me, and I didn't necessarily have the luxury to not take a part-time job. Lastly was volunteering. I did participate in some junior exchange and Circle K stuff. It wasn't necessarily like an officer position or leadership position, but I was demonstrating a lot of hours in terms of volunteering over the weekends. So generally speaking, right, in terms of my number of hours per week, it'd probably be around 30 plus hours in terms of activities. Remember that if you are part of our program, we always encourage 20 to 30 is the range that you want to be at for a state like a UC or a state school or a high state school. 25 to 30 is the range for like places like UCLA, UC Berkeley, where there's very competitive. And then also for Ivy Leagues, it would be 30 hours plus. And so for myself, I had 30 hours plus. I was definitely at school and over on the weekends as well. And so that was my leadership experience. Uh, also, in terms of my passion project, remember we always talk about personal projects and passion projects and how you should be able to create one that stands out. So for me, the thing that I focused on was being the pseudo activities director for high school. So what I mean by that was we actually had an activities director that usually ran leadership, but they ended up retiring, and we actually had one full year without an activities director. So technically, I was actually going in fulfilling that role as the activities director, where I actually had to budget the amounts of money that we spent. I had to also give grades to different high school students. I'm not sure if that's actually like I'm not sure there's any like policies around that, but that's probably like not according to policy. That's very bad, actually. I was deciding the grades of my peers. I was pretty much deciding who gets A's and who gets B's and who failed, which is really sad to say. And lastly is also I participated in the school site council. So that means that I was in like meetings with the principal, vice principal, and other teachers to kind of determine what are the top priorities required for the school. So anyways, my passion project was being able to develop the campus life experience at the high school. And that was my introduction to understanding community, understanding leadership, understanding a bit of business, and also just being able to do things that a lot of other high school students would probably not do at all. And in this case, right, I was kind of forced to kind of step up and to be able to handle a lot of things that a full-time employee would actually have to do. So that was my kind of passion project that I highlighted. Next, we'll go into letters of rec. So in terms of my academics, I had 3 letters of rec. Back then in the UC system, we only had 2, but at least for my scholarship application, I needed 3. And so in this case, my AP stats teacher was my main academic focus letter rec. And then I also got letters of rec from the principal and vice principal as well. So anyways, right, the way I kind of saw it was I needed to get letters of rec from the people in power or the positions of power at the high school. And that was my strategy at the time. It wasn't just going for the high school teachers. And when I applied to Berkeley and the other campuses, I focused just primarily on developing relationships with the principal and the vice principal at that time. So that might be kind of a strategy for you all in terms of who can really speak out to what you did and your impact at your school or at your kind of community. And also who is like respectable and reputable to be able to really advocate for you. And so in this case, right, the principal and the vice principal were working with me pretty consistently, and they saw what is it that I could provide. So that being said, that's where I strategize about who to give me those letter recs. So let's next go into the application. So the application back then during the pre-2016, 2016 was when they first introduced the personal insight questions, which is like the 4 different questions that you could choose from. But back then, there's only 2 questions that were allowed that you had to answer, which is 1, describe the world you come from, for example, your family, community, or school, and tell us about how your world has shaped your dreams and aspirations. 2nd, tell us about a personal quality, talent, accomplishment, contribution, or experience that is important to you. What about this quality or accomplishment makes you proud, and how does it relate to the person you are? So I'll talk a little bit about the talking points that I did for each of these. I really wish I had like copies of this. I don't have copies anymore. This was back in the day when the cloud didn't really exist or the cloud wasn't really used. I wish that we had like Dropbox or Google Drive during that time because I would love to read it. I'd be curious to see like what my personal statements actually look like. So in terms of let's go into the first question, right? Describe the world that you come from. So in terms of what I talked about was 1, that I was a first generation college educated from East San Jose, which is a low income neighborhood. I talked about being from a family of refugees and what it meant to me to be affected from being low income. Uh, I know that in terms of this, right, I want to clarify that I don't want to get people the wrong idea. This isn't like a sob story, right? A lot of the number one kinds of myths out there is that you need to have a sob story in order to do well. That is totally false, especially given that majority of the people who actually get into UCs, right, tend to actually be middle class and up. So the low income, the Cal Grant recipients actually are a very small percentage of the entire population, just to kind of let you know. So that being said, the reason though, I think that people tend to quote unquote have sob stories that get into these schools is because they have a good sense of self. They have a good sense of what they want to do. So What I mean by that is like for myself, I was very understanding of how physical communities were created in um, ways to prevent people from doing well. So, for example, I remember talking about how our school and another school like 10 miles down, the resources were totally different, and that's because of the geographical location. Because if you didn't know, in California, and also across the United States, the property taxes actually determine how much money goes to your school. And that's why a lot of people tend to want to live in affluent neighborhoods because the schools are more well funded. And so that was something I even noticed as a young child because, as you can see, we only had eight AP courses. Okay, that's super low in comparison to many others. And I know from other states, there's rural areas that only have four AP classes. So there, that just understanding just that, right, helped me understand that there was this kind of sense of not everyone gets to start at the same starting line, right? Some people have that sense of privilege, other people don't have that sense of privilege. And what does it mean for us to kind of change that? What does it mean to be able to influence that or shape that for the future? And so that kind of influenced me in terms of my personal statement, focusing on my mission is to support low income families and also do it through business. Okay. I didn't actually know too much about business at all. I actually didn't understand business and I didn't end up majoring in business, anyways. But the thought was I wanted to, I think, be like a financial advisor or to teach low income families how to save money. It was very surface level. It was not necessarily like, I didn't have to say like I wanted to be a banker or something of that sort or work at a financial institution, but more so like I knew that some way that I wanted to support these low income families through some type of financial means. And so that kind of detailed like how my past influenced what I was doing right now in terms of my perspective, in terms of how I saw the world. And that also influenced my future of what I wanted to do and study. So I was mentioning how I want to study business and study and I think social welfare as well to be able to support these low income families because that particular majors will give me the tools and skills necessary to be able to accomplish this mission. So that being said, right, if you're able to really piece out, right, what I'm doing right there, I'm taking personal insights about myself in terms of my upbringing, talking about how that influenced my current perspective on understanding the world and how that led to what I want to do later on in the future. And it's about how you articulate it, right? How you articulate it is really key and pivotal to creating a really strong application. So the next part is the tell us about a personal quality, talent, accomplishment, contribution, or experience that is important to you. What does this quality or accomplishment make you proud, and how does it relate to the person you are? So this is where I was very proud. This is where the personal project kind of came in. For us back then, we only had two personal statements, so we didn't really have much opportunity. Like one was more about your history, about who you are, and then the second personal statement would just be about what did you do or what are you proud of. And so in this case right here, I talked about the activities director and being an ASB president, and how from that experience, I was forced to take on this role because we didn't have like a teacher that was hired on time. And being ASB president helped me understand the importance of community, student representation, and leadership by representing the voices of the student population on the student site on the school site council, right? Because I was trying to cultivate a community where people felt like they belonged at our school. Because in one things I talked about was how um, I think I talked about this, but like back in the day, right, for a lot of students that live in East San Jose, their main kind of sense of community is at the school. And that's because their home isn't necessarily the best place to go to. So, for example, like a lot of people have challenging homes, they don't have really a stable place, and they rely on the school as a place of shelter and like a sense of belonging. And so that those are one of the things that I learned through my experience was that the importance of these leadership events and ASB events isn't necessarily just because of raising school spirit or like making sure everyone's like excited and engaged, but it's more so how do we create like a home for people where their home might not be the best for them. And so that was one of the kind of key influences that I think influenced my personal statements that really helped me out because it showed that there was a deeper meaning in terms of everything that I was doing. So again, for one of the for your student, or if you are the student, the question always becomes why, right? Why is what you're doing important? Why is it important to you? And why does this matter at all in this world, right? And so by being able to have that critical lens back in the day, that was able to help me understand that there's more to just like, balloon arcs and spirit days and stuff like that. There is a deeper meaning to that. And so that led to the future of aspiration to empower communities to create similar kinds of communities that felt like home as well. Like, I don't really exactly remember what exactly I wrote about during that time, but I think that there was this tie to being able to support communities and making sure that communities such as like East San Jose would be able to cultivate some type of sense of belonging and also like safety and such as well. So that's the way that I kind of transitioned within my personal statements back. Okay. All right. So that was my application. Okay. So I know that was a lot of information right now. Just making sure, are folks following along? Is this helpful to be able to walk through about my kind of application, my academics and my activities? Just give me a thumbs up or in the chat, or just give me some type of verbal, or not verbal, but like a confirmation here. Okay. All right. All right. I see it in the host and panelist specific view. So glad to hear that. So let's talk about finding scholarships and how to be able to like look for them and also like put your best foot forward. Okay. So first off, there are three types of scholarships. There's the external organizations, locally based, and also admissions offices. And I'll also talk about how I kind of went about it as well. Okay. So first off, let's start with the external organizations. There's a whole bunch of them. Okay. The ones on the screen, right? Scholarship Owl, FastWeb, scholarships.com, all these other ones. These have a whole bunch of listings that you can be able to access whenever you want. So one of the things that you could do is go to these websites and create like an email notification for yourself. And so that way you can continuously apply. A lot of these tend to be very random, like where there's this scholarship where you don't have to even write an essay, or there's things that where you just submit a video or you submit like a TikTok even. There's a lot of random kinds of scholarships that you wouldn't expect that actually existed. So one of the things that if folks are applying through external organizations is develop the habit of checking regularly, because you never know what you actually qualify for. And so one of those things, for example, is like spend 5 to 10 minutes per day, put it on your calendar, and or have your student put it on the calendar to like look through the listings and see if there's anything worthwhile. So some qualities about this is that it's great to easily find some scholarships with different criteria, because a lot of these websites you're able to kind of use the filtering functions to see if it applies to you. For example, maybe you're an athlete and then you can type in the word athlete or something. Or if you're an engineering major, then you could type in engineering. So those are things that you can be able to do. Second, some don't require an essay, as I already mentioned. You can see it from the screen as well. And third is that it requires consistent review and applying, meaning that you have to build a habit of looking on a daily basis. And not a lot of people do this, okay? A lot of people, I can assure you that it's probably like around 1 out of 50 to 100, more than 100 actually, more than 1 in 100 students are actually doing this regularly. So build a habit, right? And you'll be able, as long as you build strong habits, you can be able to find some good scholarships. The second one is local-based scholarships. So this was actually ones that I applied to. So the ones that I applied to, it was called a incentive awards program. It no longer exists, unfortunately. But the thing about it is that they only offer it to a specific region or location. So generally, they tend to be less competition, and they're also difficult to find. And so one of the things I'm going to highlight is the importance of networking, because the way that I found that scholarship was honestly just to ask around and to figure out how the heck do I get into college for free. So one of the things that I always encourage is there are tons of people who actually got scholarships, and like including myself, right? You talk to people like me and then you ask like what did they do, how did they find it, and then you just follow what they did. And Fun fact, I actually didn't know Berkeley was even like a competitive school. I didn't know that it was prestigious. I just wanted to go to school for free. And I met somebody who was an alumni who said, "Oh, I got into Berkeley and I got a full ride scholarship." And I was like, "Cool. How did you do that?" And from there, I just followed the exact same paths and applied to the same exact scholarship. And so just know that it's a lot of it is just through word of mouth, which is kind of unfortunate, but at the same time, that's why it's so difficult to find. Also, they might require interviews, which I had to participate in interview, which again, I'll talk about later on about how to do well on those interviews. These are examples of, again, incentive awards program was what I was able to participate in. I applied to this like during junior year, and they have like a regional program where they get one student from each school in East San Jose, which was again locally. And so they only choose one student out of the entire school to be able uh, to get this scholarship. And fun fact, okay, I actually did not get the scholarship at first. I did not actually receive this scholarship because I was actually in second place. Okay. The reason why I was able to still get the scholarship, right? It wasn't because the first one dropped out of Berkeley, but it's because of the fact that I actually reached out and asked to see if there was still possibility of me receiving the scholarship, and they said yes. So this is a pro tip, okay? When you first get your acceptance letters, right, you typically will receive an offer, right, of a package maybe. And the thing is, during the time when you receive your offer letter to when you decide to enroll or the deadline to enroll, which is in May, people are deciding whether they want to go to whatever school. So they're competing, they're comparing different options, and they're trying to figure out what the best option is. Well, uh, the thing is, not every single student is going to go to this particular school and accept the package. So what that means, right, is there's leftover money. So the way that I approached it was I waited until maybe around April, where I asked to see if there was a way to still receive that scholarship. And fortunately for me, there was another student at another school that declined the scholarship because they wanted to go to UCLA. And if it wasn't for that moment where I reached out via email just to be like, hey, uh, it's unfortunate that I didn't get this scholarship, but I wanted to see like, is there still a possibility to qualify for the scholarship? Is there any other possible way? And the crazy thing is that they said yes, and that was like a life-changing moment. And that's what I mean by taking initiative. Taking initiative is going to be one of the key important aspects that will help you do really well in the scholarships because you have to ask around, you have to figure out what works for you, and to be able to uh, create that scholarship opportunity for yourself. And so during the time, again, between when you receive the letter versus when people had to accept it, there's going to be leftover money from these scholarship funds that they originally were going to provide. So if you don't receive a scholarship, okay, it's always worth asking again in the future if you can still qualify or if you can still receive it. So that's a fun fact there. And also on the right side, honestly, as unfortunate and dumb as it sounds, just searching local San Jose scholarships, you'll be able to find a whole bunch of local kind of organizations that might offer that. So look up your own city, right? And look up scholarships, and there's a whole bunch of different nonprofits or foundations in the area that you never know that might actually offer these scholarships. So it just takes a few minutes, honestly. Like people think that it's super hard, but really it's not. It's just a matter of building habits to be able to find it, right? And so you have to be able to look around and know how to be resourceful. All right, let's go to the next part, which is the admissions offer scholarships. So these are scholarships that are offered by the school, where usually uh, you don't actually have to apply to it separately. What's nice about these particular scholarships is you apply as a regular student, and then you figure out through your offer letter whether if you receive a scholarship or not. And so typically that doesn't require like any additional like research on your part aside actually no let me take that back. um you might never know whether if you can qualify for a scholarship, and you'll be surprised or happily surprised that hey, like you got a scholarship and you didn't even realize it. But also it's always helpful to look at the websites of the schools that you're applying to, and particularly look at the schools that you're applying to after you get accepted, right? And try to see, is there any particular scholarship opportunities that that school offers? And so there's this time period between when you get your acceptance letters to when you actually start enrolling into school, there is some scholarships that are typically offered by the school at that time for first year undergraduates. So do take a look, right, at the websites that you plan to enroll in or apply to. And usually they might have some type of special sort of requirements for that. And so uh, again, some don't require an extra application, which is really nice. And you'll also be notified early in your admissions as a finalist, and an interview would probably be required. So this is especially for the UC Regent Scholars, which takes like the top 1 to 2% of high school students across like the state, for example. And so for particular ones like that one, that would require you to still apply for it, and they'll like notify you if you did qualify for the Regent Scholar. And lastly, it'll be receipt upon admissions acceptance. So as soon as you enroll into the school, and you will receive that package directly to you, and that will apply towards tuition. All right. Oh, that was a repeat. Okay. All right, let's talk about writing the application now. Now that you know the different types of scholarships, now let's talk about the strategies to be able to do well and to write an amazing application. So uh, first off, right, as a reminder, we talked about what do scholarships look for in a scholar. Return on investment, alignment of the mission, academic rigor, leadership in the community, and social economic need. So always reflect and always look back in terms of these particular criteria, because you want to make sure your essays are aligned to these. You don't want to just copy and paste your personal statement or your PIQ into a scholarship application, because if you are not researching the organization that's providing it, then you're short out of luck. Like that's not going to help you get that scholarship. So you want to investigate before writing, right? And the way to kind of do that is, you have to kind of be a detective, right? You have to understand from the website about what kind of information they offer, whether that's like who their profile of their applicants are, who did they accept, who are they trying to serve. Also, if you're able to look at testimonials of recent scholars as well, the testimonials will kind of help you understand what exactly is their background and what do they highlight, and maybe you can find some trends that can be connected together. So for example, maybe you watch 3 testimonials and you learn that, hey, what they're looking for are people who really love aerospace engineering, and that they can highlight that they want to work in NASA. I don't know, I'm making stuff up, but maybe that is the main thing that ties all 3 testimonials together. So your job is to figure out across all the testimonials, what is the common denominator factor, and how would you fit in with that? Alumni, if you're able to speak to alumni, right, and connect with them, that would always be helpful. That's the best source of information, I would say. And also, it doesn't hurt to actually reach out to the staff of the scholarship and ask them like, hey, do you mind if I set up a 15-minute call? I just want to learn more about the requirements for this particular scholarship. Is that okay? Or can I ask you questions through email? Okay. Again, information gathering, take initiative, just go out and just ask for information. And lastly, webinars. Usually for these scholarships, they might have some type of online webinar where you're able to learn information about the scholarship itself. And so just keep a lookout for some big scholarships and try to see if there's any dates that you can like write down for yourself and to attend those webinars to learn. So after you've done your research, right, the next part is to connect the dots. So the big question is, what is the profile applicants are looking for? If you're able to kind of map out what those specific attributes are, then you connect it to yourself, right? What is it that you offer? What are the experiences that you've done that relate to these particular attributes? Because you want to speak directly to that. If you are so proud about a particular, I don't know, sport like tennis, I don't know, and you like are in love with tennis and you love talking about tennis, if the scholarship is about, aerospace, then don't talk about tennis. Like it's, I've seen it a lot of times where like students, they will just copy and paste their PIQ into a scholarship essay. It's like, please don't do that, right? I get that you might be really proud of something, but if you don't align to the profile, then there's no point. There's no way to stand out if you are not connecting to their mission. So in terms of the writing structure, though, there's always a helpful kind of framework that I always tell a lot of students, and especially during our college app intensive, which, by the way, I'll talk about a little bit later. That's where we kind of help students like create their personal statements and revise it and all that such. but the kind of writing structure I always recommend them is past, present, future. Okay. To write a very strong story, right, is being able to connect first your upbringing, how it shaped your perspective and worldview, which is actually like the personal statement like prompt here, and then connect it to the present about how does that shape what you're doing right now and what did you learn about yourself. And what did you learn about yourself could be about your interests, could be about your passions, what you want to do in the future. And that again leads to the future. What do you hope to learn or accomplish in the future? Okay. Uh, it sounds we don't need to overcomplicate things. It's very simple, right? It's not too difficult. It's not as if there's like a secret formula or a way that you have to be able to write it. It's just being able to articulate what is it that you want to do and how do you know that based off of your past experiences and what you're currently doing with your activities. So that's the kind of framework that has helped me tremendously. And also know that you don't have to be good at English. Okay, I remember I got ones in my AP English exams, and also I had to take remedial English when I was at Berkeley too. So English is not necessarily a requirement, or being good at writing is not a necessarily is not necessarily a requirement to do well in your applications. But really, what makes a really strong application is your strong sense of self. If you're able to articulate your why, if you're able to articulate what is it that you want to do and what is it that you want to achieve, and you're able to back up all the reasons why that what led you to that point, right? So that's why we always encourage during a coaching sessions, why. And also, it's more important to have these conversations on a daily or weekly basis because that's going to help your student or help you as the student. Because the more that you talk about it, the more comfortable you'll be. So again, like it's not about the writing itself. It's not about writing the most perfect English, like using big jargon or anything of that sort. All it is just being able to articulate who you are, what you want to do, and how do you know that. So this is the writing structure that I recommend for folks to keep it simple. And also, let's talk about letters of recommendations because usually scholarships would ask that. Okay. So again, to consider, right, you always want to reference back to what are the attributes that they're looking for, and then try to find the letters of recs that could be able to speak to those specific points. So whether that's an academic or professional reference, right, it really depends on what the attribute that you want to fulfill. Second is the sentiment level, right? How close do you feel to this person? Do you think that they actually have your support? Is it just someone that you think that likes you, but you're not actually sure? Third is duration of engagement. How long have they known you? If it's only been like 1 month, 2 months, then maybe they won't be able to really write about you confidently. And also confidence in the writing ability. This is super important too that people don't realize. Um, it's kind of awkward to ask them like, hey, are you good at writing? But like, it's one of those things where it's important to consider, have they written a letter of recommendation before? So that's the way to ask them. Have you written a letter of recommendation before? What happened to that student? Did they get into their schools? Because the thing is, I've seen this multiple times. Folks might ask their like coach in sports, and their coach does not have any experience whatsoever writing letters of rec. Okay. So just something to be careful about is don't just depend on the person that likes you the most. Depend on the person that likes you and has a really good writing capability. So discuss with them, right? Like talk to them first before you immediately just assume that they will write you a good letter recommendation. Really try to understand from them, like, hey, would you be comfortable writing this? Have you written this before? And also, you can talk about the specific points that you want them to talk about, because the best letter of recommendations or the best like recommenders, they will work with you to articulate your story that you want to have. So a good sign of a good recommender is that they ask you, like, what do you want me to talk about? Okay. And a lot of students might at first be like, oh, like what? Like, I don't know. And also they might be worried that that's a bad sign, but that is a good sign because you want to craft their narrative in a way that is supplemental to what you are already writing yourself. So for example, you don't want to talk about the same things about within your personal statements or your application and the same exact thing as your letter of rec. They have to be working in tandem with each other, meaning that you're writing a personal statement from your perspective, And the letter recommender is writing it from their perspective that's additive, that's showing a different perspective of you. So again, like don't let it repeat itself, but let it be able to showcase a holistic view of yourself. All right, now let's go into acing the interview, okay? So the interview is, uh, it can be pretty difficult, right? Because not a lot of students actually know how to do well in interviews. And it's understandable, right? Because you would only participate in interviews unless you actually have a part-time job or you interviewed for a job. For me, I worked in many different jobs, so I was very comfortable in being able to speak about myself. And so that's one of the things that you'll learn here about the skills to do that. So first off is having, wait, is that the first one? Okay, yeah. First off is to have a good elevator pitch. What is elevator pitch? Well, an elevator pitch is pretty much a short, very short synopsis, 30-second speech about yourself, about who you are, what you offer, and like what is it that you want to accomplish in the future. Okay, think of it as what is the first impression that you want to make on the interviewer, right? That's why they call it elevator pitch, because an elevator is only about 30 seconds or whatever less seconds, and you have to be able to have a conversation with someone and make a very good impression before they leave. So this requires practice. Okay. Uh, you need to write it out. You need to actually read it out loud, and you need to sound confident when you say it, because confidence and charisma are important qualities within the interview process. Because if let's just say that if I spoke or like very quietly, I was like kind of timid, like, oh yeah, hi, yeah, my name is Victor, and I really want this scholarship because and then like it's like you have to be confident in who you are, what you want, and what you hope to accomplish, because they're investing into you, right? And they want to invest into someone that has a strong sense of self, a strong sense of mission, a strong sense of purpose. Okay. So that is something that you want to be able to do. And also when it comes to influencing them, right, is this is what I mean by the charisma and confidence, because in ways you want to appeal to people's feelings and also to validate it with their logic. What I mean by that, okay, is think about the impression that you want to leave on the interviewer, right? Maybe your characteristics or attributes are this this student is very smart. They're very hardworking. They will they have a strong desire or interest to work in this particular field, right? You want to exude that through like your expressions, right? And through your way of speaking. The logic side, right, is kind of a way to validate whether if that's a real kind of impression, meaning that and what this diagram shows right here is the brain saying like, no, we won't buy it, because it's always trying to find reasons why your feelings are actually valid. And what I mean by that, right, is that when you're going into an interview, you want to make sure that you prep the logic, right, that is that will back up that impression that you're trying to make. And to get very specific about what that looks like, right, is to first understand the qualities of the interviewee that you want them to feel. Okay. So I already mentioned this. All right. Strong sense of purpose and direction, alignment to mission and values of the scholarship, hunger for learning and growth, and a guaranteed investment to the future. So these are things that you might want to give as a first impression and also the last impression before you leave the interview. The next part is the logic part, okay? And the logic part is to be able to explain how you, the experiences, the things that you did that actually relate to that impression that you're trying to create or that attribute that they're looking for. And so one of the kind of key frameworks for interviews, and also if you're a parent, you're probably familiar with this too, is called the STAR framework. The STAR framework is pretty much a way to describe, to answer your interview questions by first providing the situation, which is the task or the context of when you were in this particular moment that demonstrated this attribute. The task is what were you required to do? What was your purpose being there? Action, what did you actually do, right? And then lastly is what was the result or the outcome out of that your actions. So this is like a strong way, and also this is commonly used in so many interviews to be able to articulate a particular situation or story that gives people the confidence that you are a good investment. So again, right, appeal to the feelings, right? Think about the kind of impression that you want to give them, and then make sure that you back it up with stories about your activities that you've done or the academics that you've done to really prove that, right? So again, right, appeal to the feelings and appeal to the logic, and making sure that the logic and the feelings are kind of like intertwined here, right? Okay, all right. So we're kind of at the end of our time. I hope that was useful, folks. But next, I'm going to share some resources that could be helpful to everyone here, especially for those who are currently in their search for scholarships. So first off, if you want the replay and notes, text 949-775-0865, notes and replays, and we'll be able to share that with you. Second, access our scholarship resource. So we actually compiled 100 different scholarships for current high school freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And so if you want that particular freebie with 100 different scholarships, text scholarship to 949-775-0865. Okay. Also, college app intensive starts really soon as well. So if you are a junior, okay, juniors, you are going to start writing your personal statements and personal insight questions really soon. And so if you're a part of our coaching families, make sure that you already reserved your spot with our staff. But if you are not part of our program, right, and you just want to participate in this activity, you will be able to walk away with a final draft of your personal statements by the end of summer. Okay, that's the goal there. Kickstart is where we'll help you ideate, we'll help you learn how to start developing your rough drafts. Accelerator is where we finalize it, and that will be towards the end of the summer. So if you are interested in attending that event, you can go to College App Intensive, or you can text intensive to the same number. Next, free 15-minute assessment call. If you found this session really helpful and you're not part of our coaching families yet, we offer free 15-minute coaching sessions with our team where you can ask questions about anything regarding the college admissions process. And we'll also evaluate whether if your student is on track, off track, and also what is it that you can do to be able to increase your chances. Nothing is for sale on this call. You can't buy anything on it anyways. And so even if you came in trying to ask to be able to join our program, we won't let you. We want to first give you free information about what is it that you need to do to prep for your kid for college admissions. So if you're interested in that, text coach to 949-775-0865. Also, we have a, oh, sorry, the header is wrong here. We have a newsletter. So for the newsletter, we also put in like different tips, different scholarships, different things that would be helpful information for you to know. So if you're a person that likes to subscribe to different like newsletters, this is another one. Visit collegeadmissionssecrets.co or text news and we'll send over that link to you. And so again, just have this in your inbox and maybe something might come up that might be worthwhile. So join our listserv so that way we can be able to give you that free information. Also, we have recently released our research program and internship program. Okay. This is only for families or coaching families that are currently a part of our program. Okay. If you are a coaching family and you want to be able to get research experience for your child, you'll be able to create an independent research paper that which will help you stand out in the admissions process, and you'll be able to get a mentor that is has a PhD from prestigious universities. And also at the very end of the program, you can opt in to purchase credit from UC San Diego Extension. So this will be ideal for students who are looking for research and you would just want to purchase a research program. So text research to 949-775-0865. Again, you have to be a part of our coaching families to participate in this program. And this would be an add-on program that you have to purchase separately. Next is the internship program. Similarly, but in this case, you'll be placed in a startup or a company, and you'll be able to have a real world project that is for 8 weeks. You'll get a letter of completion by the end of the company, and also you could use that your supervisor as a way to get a letter of recommendation. So again, if you want to just purchase an internship and maybe you haven't developed your summer plans yet, then you can have an internship through our program. And so this is typically virtual, and and this program is usually like 5 to 10 hours per week, for example, and you'll be able to work with your supervisor on a weekly basis. So if you want more information about that, we'll schedule a call so that you can be able to learn more. Again, you have to be part of our families, our coaching families, to be able to do that. So text 949-775-0865 with the word internship. All right, so these again are the words that if you want to get everything, then just text all these different text message to that. We'll get back to you within 48 hours. I know that some folks want to get it right away. Our staff are working really hard. We'll make sure to give you those replays over time. And of course, you can always reach out back to us again if you don't receive it in time. So next, we're going to go into Q&A within the last 6 minutes. And so I'm going to take first off, if you took an AP but didn't take the test, doesn't matter. I would say you still want to take the test. Okay. Being able to show that you actually tried still means something. Like, yes, for me, like I didn't necessarily pass those tests, but at least I showed that I tried. Okay. So again, everything is kind of additive in terms of the way that we see our program. So anything that you do can look good and beneficial. And so just know that those ones are not going to necessarily look bad on your application. All right, I'm going to read from the top of the chat box. Continue to write in the Q&A box. Another question, will colleges see failed AP scores, or we can choose which AP scores to be sent? What if we do not share any AP scores? Again, colleges aren't going to penalize you if you have low AP scores. You just submit whatever you can, because the thing is, you don't want any questions of like, hey, like I see that you didn't like take an AP test even though you took this AP class. Like I'm kind of curious about, did you like not try at all? And like just being able to show effort really means something. So I encourage everyone to still apply and to take them and to still submit your test. Did you have to apply separately for your Berkeley scholarship? Yes, it was a local scholarship. It's no longer around, unfortunately, but that was something that I did. And so I had to do separate essays for that too. What age do you need to be for the research and internship program? In high school, as long as you're in high school, then you're okay. So you can start as freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior. Typically, what I see is like it's sophomore, juniors during that time. So you can feel free to reach out to us if you are a high school student. Middle school, not so much. Okay, other questions. How often do UC send supplemental essays? Hard to say, right? It's so supplemental essays are like the maybe pile. It's a case where like you didn't necessarily get in the first round, but at the same time they want more information, so you're still in the running. So it's hard to say like a exact percentage, but at least know that if you do get supplemental essays, that's a good thing. I got supplemental essays for Berkeley and UCLA, just FYI, and I did do those supplemental essays for Berkeley, and that did help me get in. I actually did not do the supplemental essays for UCLA because I was all in about Berkeley, and I did not get into UCLA because of that. But I got into UCLA for grad school, okay? And they offered me a scholarship too. So I still have that. Can you give insight on the Haas Business School for undergrad? I heard it's different from other business programs and school culture is different. Yes. So when you apply for the School of Business over at Berkeley, you don't actually you go in undeclared. So you don't actually get to major in business right away. So you actually have to do a separate application in your second year of college to get into that school. In terms of the culture, I mean, it tends to be very competitive, kind of cutthroat, just because the way that they do like scores or like grades is that they do everything based off a bell curve, meaning that if everyone gets an A, right, or everyone gets 100% on a test, and you score 2 points below and you're the only one that does that, then you pretty much have a very low grade. Like they only offer a certain number of A's and a certain number or a certain percentage of A's and a certain percentage of B's, which is crazy. So it's very competitive in terms of going down the Haas School of Business route. Also consider grad school is also another good opportunity as well. Going down the graduate school pathway can always be a good alternative to a lot of different people, because having a MBA, right, a master's in business administration, that looks a lot stronger than a bachelor's in business. I took one AP last year, and I'm taking 3 this year and 3 next year. Do you think this is enough? It's hard to say. Again, it depends on what is the average of the school. So one of the things that I always encourage you to ask to figure out if you have enough APs is what's the average number of AP courses do you see your peers taking? And also, what's the highest person? Like, what's the highest number of APs you see a student taking? That's usually the upper limit, which I would suggest that you want to be at the upper limit. If you see someone that's taking 5 AP courses, well, unfortunately, you're against that person. So you might want to go for 5 AP courses or go for 4 and take a dual enrollment course, okay? So just know that you don't always have to enroll in all AP courses. You can always do dual enrollment to increase your particular competitiveness as well. Any insight on Berkeley's electrical engineering and CS program? Did you interact with any of the students, and what was your experience? I actually don't know how to answer this question just because, I mean, did I interact with these students? Yeah, I did. What was my experience? I mean, hard to say. I mean, there wasn't any negative impression per se. Uh, I mean, so the thing about the electrical engineering computer science program, it's just really heavy on the math and physics. So if you want to do really well and to get into that particular school or program, you want to increase your math rigor as much as possible. So get above calculus BC, go to multivariable, take multivariable calculus, and also take linear algebra as well. So those are the kinds of the courses that we typically recommend, and also all of your physics, AP physics courses are available as well. And if you don't have AP physics course, then take it through ucscout.org. Okay. All right. I think we're at time right now. And thank you for all the questions. I think I answered everything. So we have a good night, and thank you for attending. And I hope that this was a useful session for everyone. Okay. So thank you and goodbye.